People often ask me, why do I convert classic cars to electric? Is it because I'm trying to save the planet? Nah. Is it because of the huge amounts of power? Maybe. Is it because of the tranquil silence of electric cars? No. It's because I don't want to do any of this anymore. This is my son's petrol-powered Porsche 924S that we've been working on for the past 2 days, and today's episode is all about why I am done with working on petrol-powered classics. I'm Richard from Electric Classic Cars. Let's get into it. So how have I got myself into this mess? Well, it's my son's fault, put it that way. He's wanted a project car. He's also electric. He's got a Renault Zoe, had that for a while. He is, how old are you now, Oliver? 20? 20. He's 20, apparently. And he wanted a project car, and he started, showing me these things on his phone. Say, oh, what about this Toyota MR2? And what other cars do you want, Oliver?
Mitsubishi 3000 GT.
Mitsubishi 3000 GT. So I talked him into going with a Porsche 924, and we started looking because his budget was very low, £3,000, £3,005 max. We started looking for a Porsche 924, but obviously a Porsche 924 or 944 for that matter at that price isn't going to be in pristine condition, let's put it that way. So we found this one, and we went all the way up to Sheffield to have a look at it. And we saw a few before that, but this one looked like a good one. And it was only until we were actually on our way up there that I actually looked at the advert more closely, and we found out it was a 924S. And that is a big difference. And that big difference is mainly in here, because the 924S is distinctly different from the 924, which had the pretty asthmatic Audi engine. In fact, I think it was the engine out of a big LT van, and
Four-cylinder
it was. In fact, the 924 was designed to be the entry-level Porsche to replace the 914, which is what me and Tim used to rally in. And it was a collaboration between Volkswagen and Porsche. So Volkswagen Audi group were going to do the drivetrain, Porsche the rest of the car, etc. And I think Volkswagen were also going to use it as their sports car option as well, but they went with the Sirocco in the end. So anyway, so the 924S actually comes with the 944 Porsche engine. So this has a 944 2.5 litre Porsche engine in, not that Audi 4-cylinder engine in, and also gearbox, and I'm pretty sure also running gear discs and brakes and stuff are also off a 944. So the 924S is essentially a 944 but in the 924 body. And some would say, well, there's not much difference between the 924 body and the 944 body, and you'd be right, apart from the fact it's a little bit narrower. So that's why the 924S had a higher top speed than the equivalent 944 of the same year, because it was narrower and punched a small hole through the air. So the 924S was a nice surprise when we went and picked it up. Now, when we picked up this car, we knew it was a non-runner. We knew the lady that was selling it couldn't start it. I asked her a few questions, did a little bit of research, and I came up with top 3 as to what possibly it could be. So I went in to buy it with some tools, and knowing that we're probably going to do a bit of fettling to drive it back, because I didn't take up a trailer. So I was really relying upon my my hands and my ability. So we went up there, and I looked at the car, looked underneath, no major rust, really good solid car. And while Oliver was trying to cut the deal and pay the bill and do the bank transfer, I started working on the actual car to try and start it. And in short, it was something really simple, 2 things really simple. There was a bad earth on something, I can't remember what it was, and also the fuel pump relay needed replacing. So once those were done and a bit of a jump start, it fired up. And it sounded amazing, sounded really good. So then drove it back, and we discovered on the way back a number of issues just made a list in the service station when we stopped. But the number one was the clutch. Now, anybody that knows 944s and 924s is probably going, ooh, because you know what's coming next. We have to replace the clutch. And that's why I'm here wasting my lovely weekend with blue skies outside, and me and Tim can't go off ragging it around the mountain roads on the Mach Run, which is a car thing that's going on this weekend, because me, my son and my dad, 3 generations of Morgans, are in here fixing this thing. The Porsche 924 was the first of Porsche's foray into the transaxle setup, if you like, configuration, where the engine is in the front but the gearbox is in the back. Normally, if it's rear-wheel drive, you'd have the engine and gearbox up there and then a prop shaft to the axle at the back, BMW, Mercedes, etc., etc. But Porsche engineers thought, for weight distribution and handling, we're a sports car manufacturer after all, let's get 50-50 weight distribution with a gearbox, fuel tank and stuff in the back, engine in the front, it'll handle brilliant. And they were right, because after this came the 944, then the 928, then the 968, I think it was it 968 Club Sport? That's a car, 968 Club Sport. I think that's probably the best transaxle Porsche, if you ask me. But back in the day, the 924S, I think, was the best transaxle Porsche, because it's nice and nimble, it's light, but that configuration causes a major headache when you've got to change the clutch, which is why we've been putting it off for a while and why it's been a real pain in the butt this weekend doing it. Now, we knew it would need doing because there was a clunk when you were in 3rd or 4th gear and you put your foot down, there would be this clunk like that. And normally you go, oh, it's the engine mounts or the gearbox mount. Something is moving when you apply load from zero load. But a little bit of research and a bit of knowledge that I already had about 924s and 944s, I thought it could well be the clutch. And let me show you what I mean. Now, back in the day, Porsche thought they were being really clever when they designed this clutch. Although it looks fairly similar, I mean, the pressure plates are pretty similar. That's the new one over there, obviously, that Oliver's putting together there now. This is the old setup. So the pressure plates are pretty much identical, really, but it's the friction plate where things change. Now, most car people out there recognise this is your kind of standard looking friction plate here. It's got some springs in the middle here just to take up that mechanical hit as it engages. So it needs a little bit of a shock absorbing spring feature, if you like, in a pressure plate. Otherwise it puts too much force into the drivetrain and you'll feel it. So instead of going with the springs back in the day, Porsche thought they would be clever and put a big huge rubber puck in there. Now, if I pick this one up, this is the old one, and if you come close there, shall I come closer or shall I?
No, I'll do a pickup.
Okay, so in here there's a rubber, I don't know what you call that, just a big huge bit of rubber inside there. And the idea was that when the clutch is engaged, the rubber absorbs the shock load, if you like. But what happens over the years is the rubber just falls apart, and we knew I was 90% sure that clunk when you engaged the power in 3rd and 4th was because the clutch was doing that. And I was right. Now, anybody that's got a Porsche 924 and 944, if you want to confirm whether or not that theory is right, take your starter motor off and see if there's any bits of rubber that fall out of the bell housing, because that's what happened with us. And essentially, that there shouldn't be doing that. And that is why we're putting a new one on. So that's the design flaw, at least I think it's a design flaw, that's caused this mess. But to be fair, the car's done how many miles?
86,000.
86,000 miles, and they do say the clutch needs changing every 80,000 miles, so it has lasted quite well, but it's still not a very good design. But to show you why this has been a pig of a job, I need to get the car up. Now, the clutch lives here. So here's your engine, there's your flywheel, clutch lives on there. But to get access to that, that lives in a bell housing. So the bell housing is down here. So imagine all that covered up by a bell housing. You can't take that bell housing off until you take the torque tube off. So this torque tube down here is what connects the engine to the gearbox at the back. So you have to move this back far enough to be able to get that bell housing off. But you can't do that without removing the gearbox, which is usually situated here. So, and none of this can come off without the exhaust off as well. So the exhaust had to come off, then the gearbox, which is down on the floor there, then all of this lot shifts back, and then you should be able to get this bell housing off here. This sounds so simple when I'm saying it, but it was a pig of a job. This bell housing has got lots, you can see these bolts up here, which are right the way up there. I mean, I don't know if you can get in here, Tim, you might. Can you see where we've had to get bolts out? Right up here, up there.
Yeah, I can see them.
And here. Now bear in mind the bell housing was out like that. So it was an absolute pig of a job to get those out. And it was going so well until we had to remove the speed sensors, which were up there, and one of them broke. Now this is the bell housing I've shown you before, and once you got all the big main bolts off, you think, oh, and obviously the starter motor which is there, you think, oh, it's just a case of out it comes. Oh no, never so easy. So there's some speed sensors that sit in here. So there's the mount for the speed sensor here. So there's two of them, and they actually attach via two 6mm cap heads to the engine like that. And people say that, you know, the easiest way to do it is just take the speed sensors out, because you need them out because they essentially poke through here, through there. So obviously that ain't going to come out. So this one came out absolutely fine. This one didn't want to come out. Now there, in fact I got the broken one just down here. So that's the speed sensor there. Obviously they normally are one piece like that, and that sits in that hole in there, but it's so corroded in there that this had just, you know, bonded itself in there. Now the problem with the speed sensor is it's metal on the bottom, plastic on the top. So when the metal bit seizes, if you like, there's no way the plastic is going to be able to cope with prying that out, and that's what happened. It just snapped off. So, which still posed the problem. We still needed to get it out. So in the end, we managed to take this mounting off the engine and just take it out that way. Now, you could ask, why didn't we take that off in the first place? Because these 6mm cap heads were absolutely seized and they were impossible to try and get to. But we did get to them eventually. So that caused us a problem, so it needs a new speed sensor now. But as with all old cars, there's all sorts of other things he needed new as well. So you've got your gearbox mounts in here. So these are absolutely knackered. In fact, the gearbox mount shouldn't do that. So the rubber and the metal has just come away from itself. He needs a new clutch arm, so where you're, in fact I'll just grab it. So there's your thrust bearing arm, and there's a pivot that goes in and holds that in place there, but the needle bearings had seized, and this was a pig of a job to get out. You need a slide hammer, but my slide hammer was at home, so we made one. So here's a bit of thread. You kind of thread that in there, a big huge socket, put a washer on the end, and out it came. But this has got indentations, which you'll have to do a close-up to see, where the needle bearing, because it was seized, were just pushing into the softer metal here. So I'm going to get a new one of these as well, because although I've freed up those needle bearings now and greased them, if I put this back in, the needle bearings will just sit into these grooves again, and it won't really work how it's supposed to. So usual thing, you start off trying to fix one problem and then find about another 10 issues you need to replace parts on. Right, so the other things which you found as well which you need to replace is the gear linkage at the back here. I mean, this is just moving in every single angle that it isn't supposed to do that. So that'll make your gear shifting really...
Like stirring porridge.
It is, exactly. It's like a stick in a bucket. So that all needs sorting out. So that's another thing we've found. So there's a list of stuff that we need, or say you, my son, needs. So there is gear linkage, bushing kit. You've got your clutch release pivot, which you need new, speed sensor obviously, and exhaust gaskets, and gearbox mounts. 5 things you need. So yeah, but that's all for another day. Today is, and we're finding all these rubber, like, you know, bits of rubber everywhere on the floor because that clutch just disintegrated. So today is all about replacing the clutch. So the rest of this video I think is going to just be putting in the clutch and doing the reverse of what we've been doing for the last 24 hours. Right, let's put this in. So there's your friction plate. How do you want to put that in there? Okay. So I'll put this clutch alignment tool in. No. There we go. Right, that's in. So if I hold this like this, do you want to go and get the tool to start doing these up? I thought my days of doing all this was over, Tim. But do you know the hardest part of all this has been the last few days?
What's that?
Not doing it myself. I've been trying to let Oliver do most of the work, not because I'm lazy or anything, just because I want him to learn the experience of working on classic cars. So I've tried my best to take a supervisory role, but it's been such a pig of a job that I've had to get involved quite a number of times. But fair dues to you, mate. You're doing a good job, seeing as it's your first major foray into classic cars.
Well, he's still here.
I know. Yeah. He hasn't given up. Now all the bolts are in to attach the pressure plate to the flywheel, so we've got to torque them. What's the torque setting?
25
Newton meters. So you can do this, mate. So this is the first time you've used a torque wrench. So you've got to set this to 25 and lock it in place.
Right.
Okay, last one, done?
Yep, that's it.
So we marked it all, so Oliver's put the whole lot in now, marked them as well, and don't forget to take that out, don't want to leave that in. But I think that's enough for 1 day, 2 days in fact for me. So you can crack on here now. I'm going to put the kettle on and have some chocolate biscuits and watch. And yeah, I think we'll just, it's the reverse of what you did before. So bell housing in next, then all the bits and pieces onto the bell housing, then the torque tube, then the gearbox, then the exhaust. Good luck, mate. Ready? Question for you. How many generations of Morgans does it take to change a clutch on a Porsche 924S? Answer, Tim?
3.
3. Right, well, Oliver is getting the bell housing in, which is the worst job. I think we'll leave it here, but this past 2 days, whole weekend basically wasted working on this car, it's reminded me why I do what I do, because we should have been out in the hills today, shouldn't we, Tim?
Yeah, a nice sunny day.
You in your Lotus, me in the Beetle, scaring supercars on local roads up in the mountains. That's what we should have been doing today at the Blue Sky Day. But yesterday we started on this. Today it's mid-afternoon on a Sunday now, the next day, and we're still miles away from finishing, and we've got to fix a load of the bits and pieces on it as well. This is why I convert classic cars to electric, because I don't have any of these issues. I just, when I want to enjoy the day, I turn it on and off I go. And that is also why Tim only buys fully restored classic cars now, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm done with
messing around
with bangers. Yeah.
So, oh, you're looking for an FJ40, aren't you?
Oh, Keep that to yourself.
Oh yeah, Mandy, Tim's wife. I didn't say that. Cut that out. Cut that out. So yeah, Tim buys only pre-restored, beautiful condition classic cars. I convert them to electric so that we can just enjoy them. Zero maintenance, reliability is fantastic, and we don't need to do stuff like this, which takes up loads of time, and quite frankly, it's a nightmare. So on that note, time to put the kettle on, go and get some biscuits, and watch my son work on a classic car. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you on the next one.